This is more Doug DeMuro, and today I'm going to talk about Hummer EV versus Cybertruck versus Rivian. Last week I posted a video with the new Hummer EV, and I took you on a tour of all the quirks and features, and I showed you all the stuff, and it was very nice, good detailed look. And then at the end I sort of summed up my thoughts, and I said I think this will be the electric truck to beat, and also I think this truck is further along than the others in development. These two statements absolutely enraged Tesla fans. I got some absolutely unbelievable comments and some reasonable ones on Twitter, Facebook, elsewhere. But either way, I'm going to reply to those comments here, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts on the EV pickup wars, the Cybertruck versus the new Hummer EV, and also Rivian. Okay, so first a little background. There are now 3 electric trucks that are quickly headed for production. You have the Cybertruck, which they showed last year, about a year ago. You have the Hummer EV, which of course they just showed in the last couple weeks. And then you have the Rivian, which they actually announced 3 years ago. I looked this up. It was first promised in December of 2017, and then it was first shown in final form in November 2018. So that was 2 years ago. So I guess that's been in development hell for a little while. Now, as for release dates, Rivian says they'll be the first to market. They're targeting a mid-2021 release date. Cybertruck and Hummer EV both say late 2021. So those are the official numbers. Okay, so now my thoughts. Now, before I get into this, I want to say I love Tesla's vehicles. I named the Model 3 Performance my car of the year last year. It was the best new car that I drove all year. Really, really impressive vehicle. And I think most of Tesla's products are some of the best cars on sale right now. I truly, truly mean that. So I'm not just some Tesla complainer who's out here trying to bash Tesla, which you get accused of if you say anything even slightly negative about Tesla online. I truly believe they make a fantastic product, wonderful cars, some of the best on the market. I really mean that. But I also try to be as objective as possible, much to the dismay of some Tesla fans. That means I don't necessarily greenlight everything Tesla does or just rubber stamp it because Elon said so. I try to take a really objective look at everything all automakers do. Objectivity is really important in my business, the journalism business, product reviews, and I try to be as fair and as reasonable and as objective as I can. And so, with that in mind, here's what I believe is an objective discussion from my point of view about these trucks. Now, I assumed that I would get some criticism for saying the Hummer EV would be the truck to beat. In fact, I assumed by far the most criticism I would get would be about that particular line, saying it's the best, the coolest, the most exciting. The reason for this is Tesla people are really zealous in their defense of Tesla's products in general. A lot of people know this, but especially of the Cybertruck, I've noticed. I'm not sure why that model more than others. I guess because it's taken a lot of heat for its appearance, which is ugly, frankly. And other Teslas, they're already great. You don't really have to fight that hard to prove it, but the Cybertruck is massive and ugly, and so I guess there's just more sensitivity there. So I assumed they'd be offended when I said the Hummer EV is the one to beat, but that wasn't actually the thing that caused so much complaints. Instead, the Tesla people were mad because I said the Hummer EV, in my opinion, I think the Hummer EV is further along in development and looks more production ready than the Cybertruck. This absolutely incensed the Tesla crowd. So I'm going to explain my thoughts, and I'm going to respond to the most common complaints I got from the Tesla people. Okay, so the first complaint I got, this is by far the biggest. This was 95% of all the responses to this. How can I say the Hummer EV is closer to production ready than the Cybertruck when the Hummer doesn't move and the Cybertruck is fully functional? That was truly 95% of tweets I got on this subject. Now, this was a very interesting argument to me. The fact that this was brought up so much, that Tesla people complained so dramatically about this particular fact as the number one thing proving I was wrong. This really stunned me. And I think this, after everything I've done with Tesla products, getting comments from viewers for years, this is the single biggest thing that has shown me the huge divide between seasoned, experienced car industry people and tech people when it comes to these products. First off, the Hummer EV does move under its own power. I watched it. They drove it from where I was filming it onto a truck to take it somewhere, okay? This happened literally in front of my eyes, and there are also a few videos online of it moving. Now, some people ask me, well, if it did move, why didn't you video it? Because it literally never occurred to me that this would be such a big thing, that the Hummer EV doesn't move yet. 3 weeks ago, I filmed a tour of a prototype version of the new Ford Bronco, which everybody agrees they're excited about and it's coming out next year and blah, blah, blah. That thing didn't move. In fact, it moved less than the Hummer EV. Nobody seemed to mind. But this Hummer, people are freaking out. It doesn't move. It doesn't move. There's a prototype. It never crossed my mind that that would be something. Now, I have to say, I saw it move, but it doesn't have the full complement of 3 motors. It clearly doesn't move at anything close to the promised speed, but it does indeed physically move, okay? But the most important thing here is this doesn't matter. This is what I'm talking about, the big difference between car industry seasoned people versus tech people. Tech people see the Cybertruck go fast, and they think, well, the Cybertruck's ready. It's a fully functional vehicle. Meanwhile, they see the Hummer EV and they say, doesn't move, not a car. Not real, fake, vaporware. But car people, car industry people specifically, know that so much more goes into making a functional vehicle than simply whether or not it moves. I say this because the Cybertruck is clearly not a fully functional vehicle. Yes, it drives. And that's great, and it's cool, and it looks crazy when it drives. And to a lot of tech people not familiar with cars, there you go. That's it, fully functional, that drives, that's all you need. But if you know cars well, you know, first off, an enormous number of regulatory changes are required to the Cybertruck to make it legal. In fact, regulators in several markets have already said the Cybertruck will not be legal in those markets due to its design, which doesn't comply with pedestrian and cyclist safety requirements. And also, it needs to change its lighting, its bumper height, doesn't have windshield wipers, doesn't have mirrors, doesn't have turn signals. So is it functional in the sense that it can drive? Apparently. Is it functional in the sense that it could actually function on public roads as designed? No. So then you have to ask yourself, well, what does fully functional actually mean to you? To me, the thing has to function, like you can drive it around. And the Cybertruck doesn't. It's not street legal. You're not actually able to operate the vehicle. And then there's the windows. So on the night the Cybertruck was revealed, Elon Musk standing up there touting the fact that it has unbreakable windows. To prove this, he hits the window and it breaks. And he says, all right, well, I'll prove it. And he hits the other window and it breaks. My point here is the windows aren't even functional in this vehicle. Now, that's not a really big deal, but it's pretty obvious to anyone who's ever been involved in the production of a product, a physical non-tech product. There is a lot of components going on here. And if the windows don't function, then obviously there's more to it than that isn't functional. There's people on Twitter screaming at me, the Cybertruck is fully functional. I'm saying, well, how do you know? The only thing you know about it is you saw it go up and down the street, you saw paparazzi photos of Elon Musk take it to dinner, and then the windows didn't work. How do you know it's fully functional? It's one of the strangest things. You don't know that at all. And I can guarantee if they can't even make the windows work as designed, there's a lot more going on there. And more importantly, most importantly, making drivability the only prerequisite for functionality doesn't really make sense anyway. General Motors is a massive company with a huge number of engineers, and they already make EVs. You want to make the Hummer EV drivable? I guarantee that like 5 or 6 GM engineers over a long weekend could take a Chevy Bolt drivetrain and put it in the Hummer EV and then it would drive. But what does that prove? That's not something. Okay, now you have a drivable Hummer EV, but that doesn't mean that it's any closer to production. That is not the sole prerequisite for production readiness. And that's sort of the reality about prototype cars. They're all in various stages of pre-production and pre-functionality. The Hummer EV is clearly further along than the Cybertruck from a regulatory perspective. Honestly, it looked like something that could be driven today. It's also further along from a production facility perspective. Tesla is still building the Cybertruck factory, don't forget that. Whereas GM actually has the Hummer EV factory. It's built, it's ready to go, it's making cars currently, not Hummer EVs, but you get the point. The Cybertruck might be further along from a drivability perspective. It certainly seems like it is. Okay, great. But that's just the way things happen. The Cybertruck needs many things before it's actually production ready. The Hummer EV also needs many things before it's actually production ready. That's how it is. Neither of these cars are ready. And to angrily argue that one prototype vehicle from a giant company that has many inner workings that we don't know about is further along in development than another prototype vehicle from a giant company that has many inner workings that we don't know about, it's just crazy. I mentioned basically in passing in my video, like 10 seconds at the end of the video, that I think the Hummer EV is further along. People absolutely lost it. The truth is, prototypes are prototypes. Both of them are pretty far from production. And the simple fact that one moves faster than the other is no indication of everything, especially considering we know the Cybertruck still has production facility and regulatory hurdles to clear. Now, I did get more complaints than that. That was the bulk of them. The Hummer EV can't be production ready if it doesn't move, and the Cybertruck moves and it's fully functional. That was most of them, but there are more that I want to address. One is the Hummer EV was plugged in to like an outlet. So how could it possibly be functional? It's plugged in. It's ridiculous. It's not a real vehicle. The truth is, all vehicles are plugged in when they're in display mode for people to film, as I just did with the Hummer EV. If you go to your local auto show, like the new car auto show that comes to your city every year, you will see that all the vehicles are plugged in, even the gasoline-powered vehicles, the Subaru Outbacks, the Honda Accords, because otherwise people get in them, they sit in them, they press all the buttons, and the battery dies. So you plug these things in when you're displaying them. That's normal. That's not something. And there were a lot of these complaints too. Like, it's plugged in, it can't be real. No, all cars get plugged in when they're in demo mode being demonstrated as it was. Another argument I got about why the Hummer EV is further along than the Cybertruck is, well, legacy car companies are always delayed when it comes to releasing electric vehicles. People brought up, well, BMW i has been delayed or maybe shelved, Volkswagen electric cars have been pushed back. But I don't think this argument is really fair. Lumping in all the legacy car companies together is not really a fair thing to do. General Motors has delivered 2 electric vehicles on time and as promised. The Volt was delivered when they said, and it did what it said. Same deal with the Bolt, delivered on time and as promised. And they delivered Super Cruise, which is excellent technology. I'm not the biggest supporter of General Motors. Really. But you can't lump General Motors in with all the legacy car manufacturers any more than you can lump in Tesla with Faraday Future and Nikola, which are so far behind. General Motors has delivered before. They've made promises and they've delivered. And so has Tesla. You wouldn't want to make conclusions about Tesla's production readiness based on Faraday Future any more than you'd want to make conclusions about General Motors based on BMW or Volkswagen. So anyway, overarching theme, in my opinion, both of these vehicles are prototypes. But more importantly, I found the whole line of argument very curious. I was really surprised, especially because the arrival time for both vehicles will likely be very close. Both automakers are targeting end of 21, within a month or two. So who cares if Tesla delivers in like November of 21 and GM in December of 21? I got the sense that the Tesla people I was arguing with on Twitter would hoist that up as a big victory, and it's like, okay, they're a few weeks apart. But I started to wonder, why are Tesla people so caught up in which truck will come out first? Is that really their big fighting point? And it really was. Huge Tesla fan accounts were so mad at me about this. It was 99% of my tweet replies. How could you say that the Hummer is coming first when it doesn't even move? And this was especially odd to me because Tesla people are usually trying to argue about which one is best. Model 3 and Model S are so excellent. They're such good cars. The discussion is really only about their capability, their range, their performance, their technology, and Tesla people always win these discussions because it's just so easy. So why are we here discussing which one will come first? Like, nobody who tweeted me is discussing specs, technology, performance, horsepower, the usual stuff that Tesla people just use to shut down arguments. So why aren't they taking issue with my argument that the Hummer is the one to beat? They're focusing on the Hummer is going to be first, but I also said it would be the best. They don't seem to care about that. Why is that? So then I looked it up. Then I realized that's because, for once, the Tesla isn't clearly the best. And I think Tesla people are upset about it. The top trim Hummer has 1,000 horsepower, does 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, 350-mile range. The top trim Cybertruck has a longer range, they say 500 miles, but it only has about 800 horsepower. 0 to 60 is about the same, but it's not going to be as capable off-road. Hummer has way better approach and departure angles, and Hummer with the bed extender has a longer bed. So maybe this is a blow to Tesla people's egos. Here's the first time not only do you have an uglier vehicle, but it's not really better than before. With Model 3 performance, you can just shut down the argument against almost all legacy gas-powered cars by just talking specs. With Cybertruck, you can't really. Now, with that said, Cybertruck is cheaper, which is a big deal. Like, 2 people who brought up specs to me did mention, hey, there's some spec differences, and Cybertruck is more affordable, more accessible. And that's totally right. Cybertruck, I think, is starting at like 40, 50, I don't remember, way less. The Hummer EV is starting at 80. And I agree, that's a big benefit of Cybertruck. Top versions of Cybertruck are very expensive, but cheaper ones are way more affordable than the cheapest Hummer. And that's really notable, because it's maybe not going to be as much of a rich person's toy and maybe more usable as an actual truck by actual truck people. And that is one spec that certainly deserves mention, but that's not what they were talking about. So that's my general thought on Cybertruck versus Hummer. Truthfully, to me, the Hummer just seems more compelling. It's more powerful, it's the same insane acceleration, it looks like it'll be more capable off-road, it is way better looking, and yes, it may not come first, but also it may come first, and frankly, we're talking about such a short window, it doesn't make a difference anyway. It's a ridiculous argument, and the fact that Tesla people are fighting so hard over the precise release date of these vehicles just kind of tells me they focused on that because they know the Cybertruck just isn't quite as thrilling or as exciting or as class-leading as it once was or as the other Tesla models are, and maybe being first is a big component of kind of what's left with the excitement of that truck. Now, I also want to talk about Rivian. I said I thought Hummer was further along than Rivian. Now, nearly everyone defended Tesla, but a few people did defend Rivian, especially because Rivian actually says their truck is coming this summer, June of 2021, before both Cybertruck and the Hummer EV, which may be true, but I just have little confidence in upstart brands like Rivian, who have never actually brought a product to market before. And I know they have a huge amount of investments from some non-upstart brands. I get that. But like I said, Rivian announced the truck in 2017. They showed it for the first time in 18, 2 years ago, which is ancient history in the electric vehicle world. And I've just been hearing Rivian, I'm so excited for Rivian, and it hasn't happened. And there's no delays yet. I want to be clear about that. They haven't actually had any delays. They have always said production will start in 2020, but here we are in November of 2020. I don't know if production is about to start, but the window is really closing. So I would say, yes, it is possible that Rivian will be the first to market, but again, we're only talking about a few months, and again, it's an upstart brand. I just don't have a reason to trust them. General Motors releases like 10 new vehicles a year between all their brands. They do it globally. Rivian just hasn't given me reason to say, yes, I believe this is going to happen. It certainly may. I'm not entirely sure yet. With that said, I love what I've seen of Rivian. I must say the truck is gorgeous. They say they are benchmarking Bentley and Lincoln for interior quality, which is what you should be doing. And I'm really excited to review it and have all these trucks stacked up next to one another. So that's my thought. Cybertruck is cool. It's really cool. It's ugly, hilariously so, but it's cool. And I truly can't wait to review it. Hummer EV, very cool also. Rivian, frankly, I want to review them all. I really am excited. And I think this fight over which month in 2021 will each particular truck come out, it's just stupid. We should be focusing on the product, and I can't wait to actually have the products and see them and drive them and test them out and enjoy the electric pickup wars of 2021.